All right, Shia LaBeouf, let's do it. Do it! Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it. Make your dreams come true. Just do it. Some people dream success. Well, you're going to wake up and work hard at it. Nothing is impossible. You should get to the point where anyone else would quit, and you're not going to stop there. No, what are you waiting for? Do it. Just do it. Yes, you can. Just do it. If you're tired of starting over, stop giving up. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Shia LaBeouf. Oh, look at that flex. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Dr. Deathwish on the tube of you. We're going to be working on flam drags today. I'm going to show you 3 different ways that you could potentially work on them. The first one we're going to do is warm up. So we're going to go past all the chop stuff, past the drum charts, past the several hundred grid variations, and into the technique section. We're going to do slow, fast, slow. Then I'm going to stretch and massage. And then I'm going to do fast, slow, fast. And then I'm going to play grid, where it's going to be flam drag with on 1 with just triplet grid. Etc. Except, after warming up. And then we're just going to chop out. That's the plan for the day. So first thing we're going to start off with is slow, fast, slow. Now, in the description of every one of these free play-alongs, you just go into the description right here, and then boom, you can jump to a specific BPM. So this is actually going to take me 10 minutes to get through. Woo! It's going to be a while. So this particular exercise, slow, fast, slow, it's more of a tool than it is an exercise. You can play anything you want with it. But we're going to use it to warm up. It's going to start at 40 beats a minute, go all the way up to 140, and then go back down to 40 again. And it's going to do that for 4 counts every single time you play through the rudiment. Okay, so you can put whatever rudiment you want, or even like a pattern on a drum kit. I can't speak. It has been a while. How you been? So 4 counts, goes up 1 click. Once it gets to the highest BPM that you select, in this case 140, it'll hold it for 4 measures. And then it'll go back down 1 click at a time, every 4 counts. Great way to work on a rudiment, pattern on drum kit, fill, whatever. We're going to use it to warm up. After we warm up, we'll stretch and massage. And then we're going to play fast, slow, fast, which is the opposite of this. Starts off whatever BPM you want, goes as slow as 40, and then goes back up to the whatever BPM you started at. Man, talking is messing me up. morning. How you doing today? I'm really good. Just focusing right now. This is the first thing I played all day. Just getting the hands going. Gonna do a lot of editing today. No gaming stream today. We'll resume that on Monday. And then a week from today, we're gonna do Cyberpunk as a single player game that we're gonna be doing. So I'm looking forward to that. Alright, so since I picked 140, it's going to hold it for 4 measures. And then go slower. All the way back down to 40. Such a good way to work on a rudiment, or to warm up like I'm doing. Pad is sliding. Thank you for the hearts on YouTube. Appreciate it. Hello, Waffle. Do you have syrup on you? Actually, I had a student who went by Waffles. This is when I was teaching general music, like, over a decade ago. Long time ago. And we, like, first day of class, I was just, like, doing roll call off the attendance. And a lot of kids had names that were, like, different. Like, instead of going by Christopher, they wanted to be called Chris or whatever. So I was like, hey, if you got a different name that you go by, then just let me know. So there's a kid who's like, I go by Waffles. I was like, alright, Waffles it is. Called him Waffles the whole rest of the couple years I was there with him. He thought it was funny. I did too. Again, it keeps, like, sliding. Stop. Okay, so we're going to go down to 40, and then it's going to stop. And then we'll stretch and massage. And then we'll do the opposite of this. Fast, slow, fast. Can I make more Hitman videos? Well, I've got the one. Agent 47 goes to a birthday party. It's under the gaming playlist on my YouTube. But the next game I'm actually going to play is Cyberpunk. But the next single-player game highlight reel that's coming out, that should come out next weekend, is actually Subnautica. But I might do another Hitman in the future. But after Cyberpunk, I'm going to do Darkwood, which is like a horror game. I'm so good. Thank you. Appreciate that. Just practicing. Been playing for 26 years. Always more to work on. And I do these streams to show how I work on things, to slowly improve over time. It's quite the grind, but I enjoy that. Thank you for the hearts. Whoa! It just like froze for a second. All right, we'll just stop it there. YouTube just like buffered for a second, and it's just like, oh, okay. That kind of makes things difficult. So again, this particular play along slow, fast, slow, you can go as slow as 40 to 60 to 40, or as fast as 40 to 240 to 40. That one takes a while, but we just did up to 140. Great way to warm up. But Waffle, since you're on YouTube, let me just show you on here. So under my home tab, you can find the Hitman highlights here. This has got all the drumming, the gaming, and the computer science stuff. But if you just click on a header for it, then it only shows you that content. So you can find like the full streams for Hitman, or you can find just the Hitman highlights. And if you click on this playlist, the very first one, then it's got everything organized. These two videos are coming out this upcoming week, so you can't see those yet, but all these other ones are available, like the Ghost of Tsushima streams, or Far Cry 6, etc. So stay tuned, plenty more coming out. But anyways, same thing for drumming. Just click on the drumming header, and then you got it. Appreciate you stopping in, Lewis. Let's go back. Okay, so slow, fast, slow. Great way to just kind of like work on a rudiment and whatnot. But now what we're going to do is do a little stretch and massage routine. So we're going to start off with this one of my favorite ones. You hold your sticks so that they're palm facing up. You pull in, and you push out. And oh, it feels so good. Oh, yeah. So normally I do a single player game on Tuesday, Thursday, and on the weekend, Saturday, Sunday. But because I just beat Subnautica this past week, I'm taking the next few days to edit. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday will be Fortnite. And then next weekend we'll resume the single player games. So stay tuned for more. If you do traditional, rotate and hold there. Ooh-wee. Also rotate and hold there. And do that for like 15, 20, 30 seconds. You thought I was going to stop the stream? No, not yet. We just warmed up. Now, ooh, yeah, this feels good. I need to stretch the underside of the forearms. So we could do it like I did on yesterday's stream, like this. You could do it like this. Or you can do it on here. Do it on the wall. Just the lower you go, the deeper the stretch. Don't put all your weight into it. Feels good. Now I'm going to stretch the top side. So could do it like that. You could do it here. You could do this one on your legs. You could do this one on the wall. The higher you go, the deeper the stretch. Again, don't put all your weight into it. Don't break stuff. All right, now we're going to stretch the fingers. You're staying? Sweet. Me too. Yeah, that was just a warm-up. Haven't drummed at all today until that moment. Yesterday when I was doing Fortnite, somebody asked, like, how do you improve a rudiment? And I tried to explain it without drumming, but I was like, you know what? I should just demonstrate it. Might as well actually do it. It was a good question. So if they stop in to the VOD or to the live stream, they'll have a more thorough answer, an actual demonstration. Can't really demonstrate how to improve rudiment while doing Fortnite. Can talk about it, but can't really and then you do this. Ooh, little ASMR, Poppy. Nope. Okay, fine. All right, so after I stretch, I like to massage. So I'm doing the thumb on top and the fingers underneath, just massaging up and down the forearm, the 3-arm, the 2-arm. And then this one's kind of like a kneading dough kind of vibe. If you've ever kneaded dough. If you haven't ever made bread, there's a book called, Flour, Yeast, Water. It's got very simple recipes. You make it with like a Dutch oven, and whew, they taste so good. It's like an 8-hour process, so it takes a while. How long have I been drumming for? 26 years. I started the summer before 8th grade. So everybody that I joined with had been playing for at least 3 years. And so I was the worst one. And then my freshman year of high school, I had a part where I was just playing cowbell, just keeping time. And they told me to watch the drum major and hit right when the drum major was doing the ictus. So the point where they hit with conducting. And so I my OCD perfectionist brain was watching and would just wait and try and get every single ictus. And then when I would be slightly off from them, that would mess up their timing. And then it's just this really bad thing. So I wasn't just sitting there just keeping time. I was really trying to watch every single one of the ictuses that they were doing. And was screwing up just constantly. And they're like, all right, we're going to have to cut this part. And the drum section leader at the time ran over, threw down his tenors, and just started screaming at me. And you're terrible. And just all sorts of horrible things that you shouldn't say to people in front of the entire band. And thankfully, the band director went over and just chewed him out. But me being an introvert, which I know is ironic because I'm streaming, but me being an introvert, I was mortified by it because the entire band just saw me got chewed out for not being good. So I was all right, fine, I'm gonna practice every day. And so I did it for several hours every day. Use that horrible moment as fuel for my fire. So that was freshman year. Sophomore year, I became first chair of every ensemble in the school. And then junior year, I made All-State. And then senior year, I got a full ride in percussion performance as a music educator for the college I went to. And what was it, senior year, became section leader, I think it was. No, maybe it was my freshman year of college. Section leader of Academy, where I marched. Center, etc. So, all that to say, I've been drumming for a long time, and I was terrible at it when I started. But then that horrible experience of getting embarrassed in front of everybody, I was like, all right, we're going to practice. Let's see how good we can get with this. And so I did it every day for hours, sometimes till midnight. Shouldn't have done that. Should have, gotten sleep. So all these resources that I use are the resources I wish I had when I was in high school. They're all free. I don't think people should have to pay for education for these kinds of resources. I will eventually make AdSense money off of it. Right now, Google makes that money. I do not. But give it time. You got to go. I appreciate you stopping in. Thank you. Okay. So, let's scroll past all this stuff back here. So we did slow, fast, slow, which was a great way to warm up. Great for any rudiment. Woo! Jump scare. Waffle, I appreciate it. We're now going to do fast, slow, fast. So it's the opposite. We're going to start at whatever BPM. In this case, I'll select 140. Slow down to 40, and then go back up. Okay. Timestamps in here. No, I marched Academy. So I marched 5 years there. And then I got into a car accident, so I didn't get to march year 6 or 7 when I would have aged out. I tried out for Vanguard. I ended up getting cut because they said I did not listen in as well as they wanted. And the story behind that, I could out-chop, like, a lot of people on the line. But when we were playing, like, a roll exercise, so we were, let's say it's just... The person that was on the inside of me was going... slurred it out, the diddles. And I was like, that's not the mathematically correct interpretation of this. And so I decided, instead of matching them, I was like, I'm just going to play the actual right way to do it. And so the snare tech came up to me, and this was like after I got fitted for uniforms and whatnot, and they were like the last person to get cut. And they were just like listening to both of us, and they heard the dirt, and they're like, okay, well, Jared can't listen in. So I ended up getting cut, but if he had asked me like about it, I'd just been like, well, he's slurring it. It's like not the way you're supposed to play that diddle. So I got cut. And then I got into a car accident, hit my knee on the dashboard, and I couldn't march anymore after that. Had I made the line, I wouldn't have gotten in that car accident because it was actually on the way home from Academy in 2005. Anyways, 140. But yeah, I was a section leader, center snare for Academy. And then, whoops. Didn't get a finish. Didn't get an age out. It was a bummer. My age out year, I watched from the stands, and just afterwards, just like bawled. I was just crying because I was just like, I invested everything I had into drumline, and to not be able to have that like final moment that I had been working for years, it just hit me hard. It was a bummer. But yeah, that was the year in 2005 was the year that their snare line switched to match grip. So I marched snare, traditional, and then that year, Glenn Crosby kind of convinced Murray Gussick to switch over to match grip for the snares, so I had to learn that. And that led to me going from center snare for the college I marched with to the end snare, because I was practicing match grip in my own free time before rehearsal started, like 30 minutes before, and the instructor saw me doing it and was like, if I ever see you play match grip again, you're off my drum line. And I was like, dude, you can't tell me what to do in my free time. And he's like, that's it. You're cut. And I was like, you can't do that. I'm required to take this course for my music education degree. And so he's like, fine, you're in snare. So the rest of the season I marched end snare. Went from center to end because an instructor had an ego and said I couldn't play match grip. Even though I was like on a full percussion performance scholarship, had to play match grip for like concert percussion, timpani, etc. It was rough. Needless to say, not a fan of that instructor. So this I'm going to go as slow as 40, hold it there for 4 measures, and then it's going to go back up to whatever starting BPM you chose, whoops, which is 140 in this case. Yeah, honestly, if I'm going to be candid about it, at that time, I was seeing a therapist for depression because I got into that car accident. And then, well, actually the car accident was right after that. So I had the getting cut from center snare. I got on anti-anxiety medication because I'd have a panic attack before every rehearsal because the instructor would harass me. And I was just like, dude, like, I'm required to be here. I don't want to be anywhere near you, but I have to for this degree. Even though at that time I had 4 and then was going to go into year 5 of marching and drum corps and did 4 years of marching band in high school. You had to have 2 years of marching band for college to get a music education degree. And yeah, had massive panic attacks, went on anti-anxiety medication because of him. And then, like, had to see a therapist for depression. And then the following summer, got into that car accident. And then couldn't march at all because my knee hurt so bad, etc. It was rough. Very foggy period of my life where the depression was pretty bad. But thankfully, I had a good therapist and was on antidepressants for a while. And then eventually focused on doing like yoga twice a day and getting better sleep, eating better, etc. And then eventually was able to go off of the antidepressants. And I haven't been on them for over a decade now. Probably at least 15 years. So it sucked. I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. But I learned what not to do as an instructor. Because that guy was really bad. And I was like, I want to make sure that I don't have that kind of ego and dictate what students do in their own free time when they're just practicing to try and improve themselves. My life's weird. Does double taping your sticks mess them up? No. It makes them heavier. It makes them so they last longer. So these are Hardeman hammers that I'm using. So they're extra heavy sticks to begin with. They're like the same barrel bead or tip as a normal Hardeman sticks, but the hammers are like made with a different type of wood that makes them extra heavy. And then when you use the double tape stick method, it makes it so the like shots don't break them as easily, but it also gives more weight to them. So you get even more fuller sound, but I use them as chop exercises or chopsticks basically. So every one of these like streams that I'm doing, unless I'm on like drum kit or doing tenors, which I'll practice tomorrow, I'm using these heavy sticks. They're about 44% heavier than normal Hardeman sticks that are double tape. Man, talking scream up. But I used to have like a 2/3 tape. That's what our drumline did for the longest time. And you can actually see it back there. You can see like the half tape, etc. So that was from back when I was in high school. And those, make it so that it's a weighted front. And it takes away that natural feel of the stick. So I'm not a fan of it. How do you know if your grace note is low enough for flam accents? Okay, so you don't lift them at all. So if you look at my grace notes, if you were to watch this from a distance, it would look like this. I'm just doing accent taps. All you'd see is this. So whenever you have any kind of a lift on the grace note, that's too high. In rudimental percussion, that is. I'm screwed up. After we finish this, I'll show you the difference between rudimental and concert flams. But I'm holding it at rest height and going down from there rather than going like this, where I'm lifting up for the grace notes. Waffle, I appreciate you stopping on YouTube. So once this gets to 140, that'll be the end. I appreciate that, chillin' on Twitch. Yeah, thank you. I try to be as down to earth as possible. I've had some privileges in life where I've been able to study with some of the best in the world, like Jeff Queen for a couple of lessons, Vern Johnson, who is like the tenor soloist from Blast, like, Glenn Crosby. some real OGs who are really good at what they do. But I've had the ability to be able to practice because I didn't have some issues that some of my friends did who like wanted to practice but like had to work a job to like pay for rent for their parents, etc. But I still am fully aware that I have a ton of stuff that I can practice. Like even right now, my talking is creating all sorts of mistakes that I could work on. Always more to work on. My flam drag sounds so much better when I'm not talking. Wow, what a quinky dink. To be honest with you, chillin', like when I first started these streams, I had so much anxiety because I was used to only showing like the perfected, hey, here's something that I practiced for like months in studio, and now I'm gonna share it with the public. And so when I make a mistake, like my heart would start going, and I was like, oh no, I made a mistake. And it's really helped me with that performance anxiety. So just leave it up and be like, yeah, I made a mistake. So what? Okay, so now it's gonna stop right there. Okay, so, woo-wee. Let's talk about flams. So, generally speaking, this is not like a, hey, this works for everything. In rudimental percussion, your grace note is going to start at the height that is your rest height and go down from there if you are playing on snare and tenor. So regardless of what your primary height is for the accent, your grace note height will always start at rest and go down from there. If you're playing bass drum, your distance between the grace note and the primary note is going to be greater depending on the size of your head. If you're on a smaller drum, you're going to play with a tighter flam than if you are on a larger drum. It's going to be more open. Why? Because of the vibration of the sticks or vibration of the head. Whenever you hit the head, if you do it almost like you would like on a snare drum, it's going to just shoot it off to the other side. So you have to have like gada. That's a very exaggerated version of that. Same thing with concert percussion. So if you're playing on timpani, and you have a small timpani versus on a large timpani, you're going to have smaller distance between the grace and the primary. And if you go to a larger note, you're going to have a larger one. Now, another generalization here with concert percussion is what you can usually do is do the grace note as half the height as the primary note, so it's more audible. So it makes it so that you can have a thicker sound, because what is a grace note? It's basically a broadening of the sound. It gives it a fuller, it's like you're hitting Control B to make it bold. Okay, so if you're doing concert snare, you might do it like that, and as you raise and lower your heights, you raise and lower the grace notes with it, whereas in rudimental, the grace note always stays there. So Champagne, hopefully that helps answer your question in terms of your grace note. If you see it lift at all, like playing flam accents, that's bad. You want to just start here, drop it down, and then let it come back up to the rest height, not any higher, etc. Hopefully the slow, fast, slow, and the fast, slow, fast, these particular technique little exercises right here are helpful for y'all. But that's the one that I just did. Whoops, you can't see it. That's the one that I just did. And then the one that I warmed up with, it was slow, fast, slow. I should be charging for this info? Well, I used to. So I used to have, like, I forget how many I had in a weekend, but it was like 25 students on the weekend. And I made as much as I did as like a full-time teacher just doing that. And this was like during my undergrad. So I used to, but I realized that I have a lot of information that I think is valuable because I have had some privileges. Like on my CV, I've been able to study with some cool people. So like if you scroll down to the bottom, so like I've had some private instruction from Dom Moyo, who teaches Steve Gadd's son, who's just a beast. Like Mark Sunkett had a huge impact on my life. Glenn Crosby, Vern Johnson, a couple lessons with Jeff Queen, a lesson with Paul Rennick, etc. So like I've been able to study with some people who are pretty expensive. Like some of those people are like $75 an hour. And I have like a PhD in music education and like fancy pantsy, etc. But I don't charge for it because I know that it was expensive for me to get that education, and I had that ability to do so because I worked jobs and because I had parents who paid for stuff. But I had friends who didn't have those opportunities. So I want to be able to kind of give back and like, hey, if you can't afford this, here's what I've learned. It's not going to work for everything and everyone, and it's not going to be as good as like one-on-one instruction. But like the thousands of free play-alongs on here, you don't have to pay for. Like there's no paywall behind this. These are all YouTube videos. Like if you click on this, cool, these are all YouTube videos. There are ads on it, but I'm currently not monetized on there. So I don't get any of the AdSense. I eventually will, which will help out because I've made over 1,000 of these for free. But yeah, I do not charge for this stuff. I could. I left a 6-figure job where my hourly rate was $250 an hour for consulting to make stuff for free. Was that a good decision? We'll find out. Stay tuned. Cool. Flam Dragon 1. We're now going to do the real grindy part. Actually, so it's already 38 minutes into it. So those went slower than I thought. Let's see. So we'll do here to here. So we'll do 40 to 50, and I'll just show you what that grind looks like. And then we'll speed her up. Ew. Brushing some of the diddles. Oh, so I don't know how much of my story you heard, but I was literally the worst percussionist my freshman year. And then my sophomore year, I was first chair of every ensemble. It just took practice. That's it. So as somebody who's got a PhD, award-winning researcher, blah, 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 I've done research on skill acquisition, which is like the fancy word for it. Talent is overrated. The first 50 hours of practice, the people who so-called have talent might have an advantage. After 50 hours, it's indistinguishable. So it's all about how much time you put into it and the quality of that time that you put into it. So if you're just like sitting there and just like, I'm going to play everything as fast as possible, that's a very different kind of practice than what I'm doing right here, which is I'm playing this at 40 and 41 and trying to refine my technique. So if you really want to get a scholarship, having taught students who have gotten to scholarships to like Berkeley, to UNT, Arizona State, etc., like it's all about the practice that you put into it. So those students practice several hours a day, every day. That's it, period. The students who did not get those scholarships or who did not make those drum lines, they may put in like an hour a day. It's all about the effort that you put into it, 100%. So, and there's tons of research that backs this up. Like I did a pilot study through the School of Music to see like how much time you put into practicing, whether or not you're on scholarship. 1-to-1 correlation. The students who practice the least were less likely to have a scholarship than the students who practice the most were more likely to have a scholarship Granted, that doesn't mean causation, but I mean, this correlation is so strong with that particular study and with my own experiences as somebody who has taught every grade, kindergarten through doctoral student. It's all about the practice. So if you want to get that and you want to be on that drum line, find the ways to practice efficiently, effectively, and over an extended period of time. That's really all it takes, in my opinion. You're cut from last year's national drumline. Now I genuinely feel better. Yeah, so having had failures, like getting cut from Vanguard, not because of my chops, because like I could out chop the majority of the snare line there, but because of like not listening in, I was like, okay, that is something I can work on. And so I went from being center snare section leader, and I went back to Academy and said, I want to march on the in snare because I want to work on listening in, and then I fixed my problem within a week. So take that experience, learn from it, getting cut, and go, what can I do to improve that? And so instead of like keeping my ego and be like, I'm going to go back and be center snare again, I went, hey, caption head, I want to be in snare again. And he's like, what? He's like, put me on the in, please. I want to work on listening in. This is something I want to improve. So use it as fuel for your fire to improve over time. But yeah, it's all about, can you have setbacks in life and use that to improve in the long run? If you can, you will go so much further than people who have win after win after win. As soon as they hit a roadblock, they're done. So like for me, as like somebody who's now getting into YouTube and who's been working on this, like I now have 6,000 subs. That is not enough, and I'm not even monetized. That is not enough to even come close to what I was making when I quit my 6-figure job. But like I know what the grind takes. So that like that discipline to practice over time carries over into other avenues of life, whether it's career or relationship or whatever. Like you can find ways to improve in setbacks. I've had setbacks with relationships, with career, etc. Analyze what worked, what could we improve, what could we do differently, and that will take you further than if you only have win after win. Plus, it makes you more empathetic to people who have setbacks, because you can relate to them and be like, yeah, I know what that's like. It sucks. I model that when I do the like Fortnite games, like yesterday's gaming stream, where I'm like, what worked well that round and what can I improve? Same thing with like these grid variations. What worked well and what can I improve with it? So like I can work on relaxing my accents. I can work on the consistency of my taps. But what worked well with it? Like the fact that I was able to play that while talking is hard. Acknowledge your successes, but also be realistic about your mistakes. And find a way, relentlessly, or multiple ways, to attack it from different angles to try and improve it. The more disciplined you can be, and intentional, I guess, with your time, with drumming, the more it's going to pay off. The students who got full rides, who became centers, section leaders, were very intentional with their time. What is it that I worked on yesterday? What did that reveal about my technique that I can work on today? And what are some different ways that I can improve that? If you can figure that out, it'll set you apart. Now, because people like me, who have been playing for a very long time, have worked with a bunch of students, you can ask like your instructor or an instructor at a different line, or come into my stream for some advice. What could I do to improve blah? Get as many different perspectives on that as you can. I studied with a lot of people intentionally so I could learn different techniques. The technique that I use now is a combination of many different approaches, because they all work with different affordances, different constraints, or trade-offs. etc. You need to work on your sound quality? Okay, so there's some different ways you can do that. Here's a really weird one. This one's attention grabbing for some people. I actually learned this at Vanguard during their auditions. So this was when Snares in 05 were doing match grip. So they had us play with like praying mantis technique, or you can call it like a T-Rex technique. You basically hold your stick like this, and as if you had like a thread inside of your wrist, pulling it up, you get your sticks like this. Okay, so this is for match grip in particular. And you play through like 16th note pyramid. So like 16th notes and then doubles for a measure, and then fours, and then eights, all the way up to like 4 measures of just 16th notes. And you just play like this. You do this for a couple of minutes. Do this at the start of your warm-up every day. And it's going to make it so that your taps are stronger. And if you do traditional, use a doorknob. This is something that I learned from Jeff Queen, and I talk about it in one of my videos, one of the drum lessons. We put a doorknob in between the ring and the middle finger, and you hold your arm straight, and you rotate with the doorknob. The doorknob needs resistance, and it needs to be able to snap back. But if you do that, that's a way that you can work on your power and whatnot. But the best way that I recommend working on it, besides like some of those interesting little cheats like this or with the doorknob, is just work on it slow and really focus on that velocity stroke. So a fast stroke with a relaxed technique. So sound quality comes with the volume when you're playing. And in order to get that volume, you can't have a tight hold on your stick. So if I'm playing like this and squeezing the stick versus throwing the stick into the head and letting it rebound naturally, it's going to be a completely different sound quality. Now I'm squeezing and then I let go. The amount of power that you can get with that velocity stroke from point A to the head back up to point A is a thing that you should focus on. There's actually an exercise that's specifically for that. Whoops. So if we go past the chop, past the grid, into the technique stuff, the exercise called rebound, if you read the description in there, is specifically designed for that. So I use this with the drum lines that I worked on. Yesterday I was using it on drum kit, but this particular exercise, you start with the beat of the stick up, you throw it into the head as fast as possible and let it rebound as fast as possible for every one of the notes. So quarter notes, no tension while you're doing this. You don't want to grip the stick too much. You just want to have it so that your stick basically does instant transmission, teleports into the head and back up as quickly as possible, getting your hand out of the way. And what you do is you start high, so you get that big powerful stroke, and you eventually go to like 6 inches while doing this and throwing it into the head as fast as possible to get a nice beefy sound. And this is going to build up that twitch muscle while staying relaxed with your hands while you're doing this. So this exercise was one that we did every single time with like the drumline that I last taught. It's called rebound, so I highly recommend it. And if you want to get fancy with it, you can do rebound cannon, which allows you to do 2 different rhythms, polyrhythms, etc. That one's a fun little challenge. But rebound's a good one. If you play tenors, by the way, you can also do this on tenors, where you do crossovers. So you do rebound with moving to stick over stick crossovers, or even wrist over wrist crossovers when you're doing this. And so you go as quickly as you can from one position to the next. Think of Lee Howard Stevens' method of movement for marimba. The idea where you strike and move to the next note as quickly as possible. So you have a downstroke as opposed to a slicing stroke or an arc stroke, etc. But anyways, that's probably more information than you wanted for that. But those are some different ways that you can work on your sound quality. It's all about relaxing your hands, playing with good technique, and focusing on that velocity stroke and whatnot. And there's plenty of exercises that help you with that. Anyways, let's see. It's 51. We'll go a little bit longer. Since I'm not doing a gaming stream, let's go back to Flam Dragon 1, and we're at 44. Okay. So I want to make sure that my accents are nice and relaxed. I'm pulling back without tensing up. Whoops. I started playing line 2 again. There we go. So after we play through this 5 more times, I'm then going to chop out with 5/4 Velvet Nights Shopping Spree, which is my favorite shopping spree of all time. Whoopsies. Four more rips, then we'll chop out. This is a great way to work on whatever rudiment. Just work on it with grid. There's like 800 variations linked at the top of the screen. They're free. Ew. Learning this grid took embarrassingly long. If I told you how much time I've spent practicing, you'd be like, oh yeah, that checks out. Took me forever just to get flam accents. Like months. Let alone flam drags. Everything about my drumming career has been a struggle. Everything. None of it was easy for me. I literally just practiced several hours a day. Every day. It was my escape from depression. I was lucky that I turned to drumming as opposed to substances. Video games is my other escape. Those are the two things that like kept me going. Got rid of those thoughts. Yeah, life is hard. But if I'm sitting here focusing on like diddle interpretation and like the height of my grace note, I'm not thinking about like all of the social issues going on right now. It's a great positive escape. I knew too many people who turned to drugs and alcohol, and it did not work out well. So I'm lucky that I happened to find this and gaming. The escape is great, but also the willingness to sit with the hard parts of life with a therapist. Two great things. Find a productive way to get out of those thoughts, but then also take the time to figure out, why am I having those thoughts? What could I do to change that? Can't just escape from it, in my opinion, as somebody who's married to a therapist as well. Like, I think there's value in it. It's a very Buddhist approach. Sit with the uncomfortable thoughts. But if you are going to escape, drumming is a great way to do it. I've also found gaming to be that. Martial arts. I do Muay Thai. That's a great way to get out some of that frustration of life. Because you're hitting stuff, but more so than drumming. Yeah, keeping the hands busy. I totally agree with you. But yeah, drumming, I love it. It's such a good hobby to have. It can be a cool career too if you're fortunate enough to be able to make money off of it, etc. But I love it. Speaking of loving it, we're going to play through my favorite shopping spree. Velvet Nights 5-4 shopping spree. Again, link at the top of the screen. We're in the chop section right here. So for this one, we're going to try and chop out and find, the breaking point, which apparently I did it at 135 last time. That sounds fast. Let's start off at 110, and we'll go up by like 5 clicks at a time until my hands spontaneously combust. Yeah, so that's funny. Roger Carter is a beast. That dude can play. So we actually have the backwards grid, or a variation of backwards grid. So I was just playing it forward. But if you want to work on this, go as slow as I was just doing it. But the backwards is the 1-2-4 accents version. So I have that for like each one of these. Flam Dragon 2. Well, here's the 1-2-4 version. So like backwards grid. You start off. Of course, it goes to a spot that doesn't have the music up, etc. So that's backwards grid where it goes 1-2-4. So we do have that variation. So if you want to work that up, just go slow. In the timestamps, start at 40. Like just go with what you're able to do, and don't worry about playing it faster than that. Go up 1 click at a time. You'll eventually get there. That's what I did. That's what like the greats do, that I've been fortunate enough to be able to study with, etc. Like, there's no shame in practicing slow. It's what everybody has to do to eventually refine their technique and get good at it. At least to get from, like, the intermediate to the advanced. Everybody's got to do it. And this one, you can go as slow as 20 beats a minute, because it's 16th now. But anyways, let's chop out. We're going to go fast. I like to end my practice sessions with something fun, so that way I'm like, yeah, practicing was great. I didn't just sit there and grind something for, like, 50 minutes straight. I had a great time. Ew. Crush the diddle. Rim shot there. Little extra seasoning on that. 115. But yeah, also, Zach, don't know if you're doing it or not. One of the things that I did that was a fault was comparing myself to others. You don't know how much time they put into it. So there were people that I've been fortunate enough to learn from, who I assumed it just kind of came easy to them. But then when they actually explained what they did to get good at that, I was like, oh, I can do that. Like Jeff Queen, I got 2 lessons from him. A 4-time world champion snare drummer. He said the way he got good is he set his metronome at 40, and he just sat there and worked on a rudiment for like 10 minutes straight. This is faster than 40, but you get the idea. And then he'd move it up 5 clicks at a time. And then he'd sit there for another 10 minutes working on that. And I was like, well, if he did it for 5 clicks, what if I do it for 1 click? And so I did that with like every rudiment. And then I made these play-alongs that help you with that as well. That's how he became the best. It didn't just like naturally happen for him. It depends on what you mean by that. So if you're referring to like cheesy poofs, like the rhythm that you hear is the same thing as a flam drag. So you're doing 2 and 3. Oops. So that's a cheesy poof. I'm assuming that's what you're asking about. But, you know, drummers, we have a bajillion names for different things. Go to Live Studio, complete the verification. What? There we go. I just had to like prove I was not AI on TikTok. That's weird. You're welcome. We're getting to that breaking point. My hands are a little tired. Also, using these chopsticks, the Hardeman hammers, highly recommend. They're just so good for working on chops. All these streams I'm using them on, and they're just fantastic. This is gonna be the breaking point. 130. I can't see it. Hey, thank you for the follow on Twitch. Okay, that was 125. Let's try 130. We're live on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, etc. So I talk to people who are sometimes in different chats. Or sometimes ignore and block people who are sometimes in different chats. My hands are dead. Figured out recently, left hand loves using diddles. That's all wrist. Yeah, so, okay. I get comments from, like, people who clearly have only studied one way of playing, who are like, you're doing it wrong. Whether it's like, you need to use more finger, or you need to use all wrist only, and you're like, forearm shouldn't move, etc. And it's like, it's interesting how people... Thank you for the sub on YouTube. It's interesting how people, jump scares, don't ask, well, why are you doing this way? Because, like, I've played finger technique. I've played rotary match grip. I've played wrist only. Guess what? When I played wrist only, I popped a vein here. I got early signs of tendinitis and carpal tunnel, etc. Like, there's a reason why I play the way that I do. And it's all about, like, longevity. I'm 38. Gonna be 39 this summer. I've been playing for, like, 26 years. I'm playing with extra heavy sticks. That really does a number on your hands. So, like, the things that I try and do is make so that I can continue to do this when I'm, like, 70, etc. And what you're talking about with, like, using the wrist and only using that often has to do with, like, really constraining your body and just letting, like, preventing from flowing naturally. So if I'm playing an accent, I'm using, like, a modified molar. It's okay if I use a little bit of weight in the forearm on here. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, the people who are like, you have to do it this one way. It's like, well, why? What is wrong with the pinky coming off of the stick? When is it wrong should be a better question. Is coming off right here, is that wrong? What about here? It has to do with the tension in the hand. So if your pinky's coming out this far, guess what? You're tense right here. Try it. Just hold your stick and pull it off really far. Pull it off a little bit. What does that do? Oh, it actually gives your hand and the stick some space to breathe, which makes it so it vibrates. If the stick is vibrating, that gives you a fuller sound quality. It's just natural physics. Instead of the sound going into your hand like this, because you're choking it off, it's instead going into the head if you relax it. So the pinky coming off visually looks bad, but as long as it's not creating that tension here, is it bad? Who knows? It depends on what kind of technique you're going for, whether you're playing on like drum kit by yourself, playing on a drum line, etc. Question all the things related to technique. Study with multiple people. I've had the privilege of studying with several really cool people who are really good at what they do, and they all told me different things. Every one of them. They're like, your technique should be like this. And then the next one will be like, your technique, no, it shouldn't be like that. It should be like this. And guess what? They were all really good at what they did. So if you study with more people, cool. You'll learn what works for you and your anatomy. Like I had a dude that I marched with whose like fingers were like this much longer than mine. And so for him playing snare, guess what? He needed a little gap here. Because if he, like with his extra long fingers, were to hold it and have that nice closed little grip right there, then for him it would be like playing like this, like a fist, as opposed to just like a relaxed approach with snare. So like everybody's anatomy is going to be different, etc. Anyways, I just went on a rant there. What advice to give on cheese rudiments, like going from a full X and a diddle down into a tap? Yeah, so what I was doing earlier, if you rewind the stream on YouTube, I'll put in timestamps of the things that I worked on in like 5 minutes. I'll go in and do that. But if you go here, and you go into this, blah, 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 blah. So if we scroll back, the thing that I started with was slow, fast, slow. So it starts off at a slow speed. It goes, oh, you can't see it. That's funny. It starts off at a slow speed. You speed it up, and then you slow it back down again. And then I did the opposite of that, where it's fast, slow, fast. So it starts fast, it goes slow, it goes fast again, and then working on grid. So those are like 3 ways that you can work on that. And you can actually find that here. So play cheeses with slow, fast, slow. So you start off at 40. And it goes up 1 click at a time. And eventually gets to whatever your fastest BPM is. It slows it back down. And then the opposite of this is you start off with fast, slow, fast. So you start off. And it slowly slows down over the course of a few minutes. And then it goes back up to whatever your starting tempo is. The timestamps in the descriptions allow you to jump to whatever your starting BPM is or your maximum. So you could be like, I want to start at 115, go down to 40, go to 115. Cool. That'll take you 9 minutes to do that. That is 9 minutes well spent. And then the other thing that I recommend for what you're talking about, Sanchez, is grid variations. There's a reason why I have like 800 grid variations on here. Is because if you want to work on your cheeses, cool, click on this one. For triplets, there are 26 variations for just cheeses in here. Start with cheese on 1, doing it forward, and then maybe try it backwards. And then cool, try cheese on 2, and then cheese on 3, etc. Just go slow. This can go as slow as 40 beats a minute, and I was doing that earlier in the stream. Again, on YouTube, you can rewind it and see like how I work on this stuff. But if you click, cool, we're starting at 40. Boom, there you go. Sit there and just grind this out 1 click at a time, and you will get significantly better over time. That's what I did. That's what the greats do. Not put myself in that category, but saying I learned from some of the greats, and that's what they recommended doing, etc. Your right loves to use arm, but instructor hates the idea of using arm to diddles. Yeah, so it depends on what you're playing and how you're playing. So, like, again, having had multiple instructors, like, if you have lighter sticks, so these are normal Hardimans, and they're significantly lighter than the hammers, you can use a finger technique. And you can get all sorts of, like, benefits from using finger-only technique by playing this way. So you're playing... with this, it allows you to play a little bit faster, but the problem is it creates tension in the wrist if you're using a 2-finger fulcrum like this. I personally like to use the triangle fulcrum, so 1, 2, 3. It gets rid of some of the tension, and the reason why is because, like, if you use a floppy wrist like this, and then you squeeze with these 2 fingers, then try and make your wrist floppy, you can't do it. There's tension right here. As soon as you make this contact and squeeze, and get that little like white knuckle with your fingers, then that causes tension in your wrist, and your wrist can't bend. So then you're just relying on the finger technique here, but it creates the tension inside the wrist right here, etc. For me, I want to get out of the way of the stick moving and just let my hands move naturally, some anatomy. So I have this really weird hybrid technique where I'm using a little bit of molar, I'm using a little bit of finger, I'm also using a little bit of rotary French match grip that I learned from timpani. So like first learned like this, I think it's called hanger technique, and then eventually learned it this way. And so this is what I used on timpani. It gives you a nice full sound. It makes it so that when I'm playing, I'm not just going straight down into it. I've got a slight rotation in my forearm. That gives it a little extra speed, a little extra power. But I also, when I'm playing faster, use a little bit of finger. Combine many different approaches, and again, learn from different people, and go with what works for you. But when, unfortunately, you're playing on a drum line, you have to match everybody else next to you. So if you're doing traditional, cool. Your tradition needs to be the same as somebody else. You can't play with a tilt while somebody else plays like this, while somebody else plays match grip or reverse traditional or whatever. Like, you have to match that. So you might have to, for 2 to 4 years, just play a technique that you're not going to use in the long run, but it teaches you different ways to approach it. So if I had students who were auditioning for one drum line that used more of a finger technique, I'd be like, great, I know how to do that. Or more of a wrist technique. Great. I know how to do that as well. Wrist with a little bit of forearm. Cool. I prefer that even more. Like, it'll make you a better educator if you can learn those different techniques, in my opinion. Okay. Anyways, I did not complete this chop out. Whoa. Mouse got stuck in scroll. We're going to go at 135. This is going to crash and burn. Get the fire extinguisher out. But we're going to have fun trying it. I went off on tangents there. Rants. I'm sorry. Excellent questions this morning, by the way. I really appreciate it. What? Where's the sound? There we go. YouTube is muted. Flawless. My phone alarm's going off. We found the breaking point. This play along and literally over 1,000 more can be found for free. Link at the top of the screen. If you don't want to go here where everything's neatly organized, that's fine. You don't have to. You can instead go to my YouTube channel, which is here. On my YouTube, I make drumming, gaming, and computer science stuff. Just go here. Click on the drumming, and boom, it just shows you the drumming stuff. You don't have to see the computer science and gaming stuff if you don't want to. But if you do want to see that, again, just click on the heading, and boom, it just shows you the gaming stuff, etc. And are you playing that through while sight reading? No. So this, I have that one memorized, but I worked on sight reading, and the way that I did that is I have method books. I'll show you. This is one stack of 5 stacks of percussion books that I own and that I have worked through, and would just like pull out one and be like, all right, we're going to sight read through this for like 5-10 minutes in the day. And so I would just go through every single one of these and just keep sight reading, slowly getting better. The more you study, the easier it becomes. I had a professor who, cover that up because of copyright, don't want to show the music, marimba piece. I had a professor who was really bad at sight reading, marimba, and was like, I've got all these like graduate students coming in playing pieces I've never played. I need to be able to learn it really fast. I could either learn every single piece my student is doing or learn how to sight read it. So what he ended up doing was just working on sight reading. And I was like, that's cool. I want to do that, but not for marimba because I don't like marimba. Had to learn it for the audition to get in, but I've literally got a few more stacks this big on my bookshelf back there. This is just one of many. So the books that I recommend like on my website, go back. Okay, fine. I guess if you're on here, if you go to the PC and percussion gear I use, /gear on my website, you can click on percussion, and then this takes you to some of these books that I recommend. So these are some of the ones that I recommend for concert snare. Some for drum kit. There's quite a few for that one. Mallets, rudimental, timpani, etc. So like these are just a small subsection of all the stacks of books that I've worked on here. This is how I worked on my sight reading. Is just doing it over and over and over. That's it. There's no secret to how I've gotten good at things in life, whether it's my aim in Fortnite, which was really bad yesterday, or like being able to play fast or being able to sight read. It's just the amount of reps you put into it. If you want to build muscles, guess what? You got to put in the reps. If you want to build your sight reading, guess what? You got to put in the reps. You just got to keep practicing it. So I do it for sometimes like an hour a day, like just sight reading, brand new stuff. But this is also like the sticks that I'm using are these, the Hardeman hammers, etc. How many years did you work on sight reading to be actually decent enough for a DCI drumline? So with DCI, you actually don't have to work on sight reading much. Sight reading comes in handy if you are doing, let's see, like jazz, like working in a jazz band, like being able to do charts. It's also handy if you are like playing in like a Broadway pit. So if you're like playing for a musical, you're not going to memorize everything that you're doing. Sometimes in concert settings, it's helpful to sight read. Like there was a concert band at Arizona State who was playing this piece that had like a really intense snare part, and it was basically like a snare solo for concert snare, and the person who was supposed to play that didn't show up. So they're like, hey, Jared, we need somebody to play this, and I literally sight read it for the actual like performance, and it was like a snare solo. So that came in handy. But in general with DCI, it's like, here's the music, go. Come back next weekend with it memorized. And so that was more of like, how fast can you memorize things than it is like, how much can you sight read it? But again, if you spend like, let's say 10% of your practice time, or let's say if you're doing an hour a day, every day, like 10 minutes of that, just sight reading, then by the end of the year, you'll be pretty comfortable with sight reading, whether it's on mallets or on snare or whatever. It's just the reps. So you do that and you'll get better over time. Anyways, I've rambled a lot. I do appreciate the questions. If you enjoy these resources that I share for free, all I ask is that you share it with somebody else. That's it. I'm not charging for this stuff. I don't want to have to charge for it. I will add ads eventually on YouTube when right now Google gets all the ad money, but I'm not monetized. I can actually show you that. So we're almost there. So if we go here, here's a preview of some stuff that's coming out in August. But under the earn, I'm in the YouTube partner, but I don't have monetization yet because I need to get to 4,000 hours of watch time. We're not there yet. So if you use the play longs, that helps me to get to those 4,000 hours. If you share it with somebody else, that helps me as well. But yeah, we'll eventually have some ads on there. And then I'll eventually get paid for the thousands of free stuff. I'm going to call it. Tomorrow, I'm going to work on tenors. We'll try and work on Beatlicious. And then Monday, I'll be back on the drum kit. We'll be working on limb independence and whatnot. And then we'll do some Fortnite as well. So no gaming stuff this weekend, but we'll resume the single-player games next weekend. So stay tuned for more. Thanks for the advice. Yeah, I'm happy to help you out. Come back with future questions, whether you put it in the comments, like in my YouTube videos, like I do respond to all those comments, or on Instagram, since you're on Instagram. What I might do is be like, hey, I'll talk about that in tomorrow's stream or like Wednesday stream or something like that, and like kind of direct you there so I can better answer the question. Because like yesterday when somebody asked like, how do I work on rudiments, like while I was playing Fortnite, like I explained it, but like it's much better when I can actually demonstrate it. So it's harder to type out stuff, even though I have a lot of experience doing that in academia. It's just not as effective as like actually modeling it. But anyways, I'm going to call it here. I'm going to go work on some video edits for the Subnautica streams. And we'll be back tomorrow for some more. But again, great questions. Really appreciate it. Just share the content if you enjoy it. And yeah, I'll see you later. Goodbye.